Hi, my name is Mahdee, and my topic today is going to be on global warming. Global warming has been a controversial topic for debate, most notably in the past century. Most scientists argue that humans are the primary cause of global warming due to their overusage of CO2 emitting productions, while others argue that global warming is a myth entirely. There is no question that global warming is occurring now, but there is questioning whether or not humans are the primary cause of it. I'm going to defend the position that humans are not the primary cause of global warming, and to do that, I'm going to expand on the following claims. Arguments making global warming fall under naturally occurring temperature fluctuations, carbon dioxide in the atmosphere fail to predict global warming, and that non-human factors overshadow human contributions to global warming. Our first claim is that global warming arguments fall under naturally occurring temperature fluctuations. The Earth's temperature is affected by factors both inside and outside the atmosphere, and because of these factors, the Earth's temperature constantly fluctuates, though this fluctuation has been in a constant range of highs and lows for quite some time. Arthur B. Robinson, professor of chemistry in the Oregon Institute of Science and Medicine, published an article in regards to climate change in 2007, saying the average temperature of Earth was varied within a range of about 3 degrees Celsius during the past 3,000 years. It is currently increasing as the Earth recovers from a period that is known as the Little Ice Age. 3,000 years may not seem like a long time compared to the age of the Earth, but to see how trends are affecting us now, it is important to have a scale more relative to us. But this isn't to say that global warming, or this isn't to say that these trends haven't occurred in the past, before those 3,000 years. Similar temperatures have occurred in the past, of the same caliber, if not worse. Anders Moorberg, a professor in the Department of Meteorology at Stockholm University, published an article in the journal titled Nature of February 2005, stating that high temperatures similar to those observed in the 20th century before 1990 occurred around 1180. 1180 was about 1,000 years ago, when humans weren't industrial as they are today, yet similar temperatures occurred then as they did recently. My next claim I'd like to expand upon is that the levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere fail to predict global warming. Climate records indicated that the Earth's temperature will rise even before an increase in carbon dioxide. During the time called Termination 30, which is a warming of the glaciers, carbon dioxide increase actually increased the time it took for the glaciers to melt. And with that being increased it by 800 years. So saying that the glaciers were melting and then the carbon dioxide actually slowed down the melting brings me to my next point, that during the area of glaciation, millions of years ago, the carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere were much greater than they were now. In 2010, the University of Leicester published an article exploring climates from hundreds of millions of years ago. They said the late Ordovician Ice Age occurred 450 million years ago, when temperatures plunged 10 degrees Celsius from greenhouse conditions, despite the CO2 levels of around 4,500 ppm as compared to what they are today, around 400 ppm. During the Ice Age, CO2 levels in the atmosphere were 10 times greater than what they are now, yet there was no global warming that was occurring during the time. Global temperatures have not increased despite the increase of carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere. Holland Institute in 2013 published a NIPCC article discussing the different factors of global warming and climate change. Over the past 16 years, they said, there has not been any net warming despite an increase in the atmospheric CO2 levels by 8%, which represents that 34% of all human-related carbon dioxide emissions related to the atmosphere since the Industrial Revolution. Carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is rising, but its effect to the increased global temperatures is almost negligible, bringing me to my final point and claim that non-human factors overshadow human carbon dioxide emissions to global warming. The sun experiences different cycles called solar minimums and solar maximums that affect the temperature on Earth. Solar minimums are when there are no sunspots on Earth, which produce less heat radiation, and solar maximums are when there are more sunspots on the Earth, producing more heat radiation. Thomas Woods, a solar scientist at the University of Colorado, said in an article published by NASA regarding climate change in 2008 that the fluctuations in the solar system and the solar cycles impacts Earth's global temperature by 0.1 degrees Celsius, slightly hotter during solar maximums and slightly cooler during solar minimums. 0.1 degrees Celsius may not seem like a lot. 0.1 degrees Celsius is equivalent to 32 degrees Fahrenheit, and to us a 32 degree Fahrenheit difference is quite drastic. Yet this 0.1 degrees Celsius fluctuation falls within that 3 Celsius range mentioned in the first topic. With sun cycles comes solar radiation, which have been increasing in the past century, which has led to a subsequent increase in U.S. temperatures. Arthur B. Robinson, as mentioned before, the professor of chemistry at the Oregon Institute, of Science and Medicine published an article in regards to climate change in 2007, saying that the surface temperatures in the United States during the past century reflect this natural warming trend and its correlation with solar activity, having increased about 0.5 per century, which is consistent with other historical values of 0.4 and 0.5 per century during the recovery of the Little Ice Age, indicating that temperature increases that we experience falls under the range of naturally occurring based on previous centuries having gone through the Little Ice Age as well. To recap, global warming is affected by many contributors, including humans, but seeing how Earth's temperature has stayed in a consistent range of highs and lows for the past 3,000 years, that carbon dioxide hasn't directly caused global warming, and sun cycles have caused more temperature influxes than the human CO2 contributions, I conclude that humans are not the primary cause of global warming.
All right, well, the proposition's identified at the beginning very clearly. It does have the negative terminology in it, which is a little bit problematic, but I think that most people understood the position that you were taking. I still think there's probably a way to phrase that without having to use the negative terminology. There's an excellent preview of what the secondary claims are going to be, so it's easy to follow your speech. You signpost it well in the body of the speech. As you get to each of those points, I think you do a pretty good job explaining the concept of each argument, the natural fluctuations that occur on the first point, how the CO2 levels have failed to predict these things in other situations and circumstances, although the explanation about the glaciers was not necessarily as clear as it needed to be on that second point. I also noticed that there's a tendency for some of the evidence to be a little older. I heard 2005, 2007, 2010. The most recent one that I know when it came to a date was 2013. So, we're talking about 5 or 6 years old is the most recent evidence that you have. And I'm sure that there's updated information that would probably help your argument as well. The basic ideas and premises, I think, you explained well, and I don't know that they're going to change dramatically. What I did think that you did effectively was always cite your sources and try to give credibility to those sources so that there's a reason that we should be listening to them. And I thought you did a good job on that. You had a lot of good testimony evidence, and I think that helped. And like I said, the source citations were very clear. I think given the argument that you presented, you provided good substantive proof for those positions. Presentation could be a little bit stronger. You are a little more dependent on the script than anyone, but when you do start explaining things, I think you do a little bit better. And I thought that you had a good summary at the end also, which makes it always a lot. You always want to finish, reminding people, so here's what the argument was, and if it's clear to them at the end, then when you have that exit line, it works much more effectively. All right, thank you.